Today on CityCast Philly, it's a new year, y'all. So let's get a fresh start by cleaning up our living spaces and our neighborhoods. Last spring, I spoke with a local sustainability expert about ways we can reuse and repurpose our old junk in a meaningful way. It's Tuesday, January 9th. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Nick Esposito, you're a director of policy and engagement at Circular Philadelphia. So your nonprofit is working to create policies that allow people to repurpose materials instead of throwing them away or leaving them on the streets. You're building something called a circular economy. First, Nick, what's a circular economy? What does that even mean?
Thanks for asking, Trinae, and thanks for having me. So a circular economy kind of reimagines the way that we did basically our industrial economy of the 20th century. And that economy was based on what we call the take, make, and trash model. So we take things out of the ground, we make them with those natural resources, and then crazily enough, we just throw them away. We can't sustain doing that into the future. So what Circular Philadelphia and the circular economy is advocating for is we've taken enough out of the ground right now. How do we keep all of those resources that are above ground in production for as long as possible, whether they're raw materials like metals or plastics even, or fully formed products like the toys that we give our kids, the desk that I have in my office right now, the chair I'm sitting on, the computer that I'm using. How do we keep them in circulation as long as possible? And basically just be more mindful about designing waste out, but also just reducing the resources that we're using.
So, Nick, some of us may have gotten some new things for the house over the holidays. Where can we donate or recycle some of the stuff we no longer need? Let's start with furniture. Where can we go if we have, an old couch or some old end tables that we don't want anymore?
For sure. There are plenty of thrift stores that will take furniture. I know there's one right down the street from my house, Circle Thrift. I take furniture down there all the time. Now, sometimes there's challenges to it, right? One is you just can't show up with a couch and say, take this couch, because your couch might have a lot of problems with it. It might have stains and they might say, we can't sell that. So in this conversation, I want to be very thoughtful for people to think about as they're donating, especially to thrift stores. Thrift stores are not landfills. Don't just take all of your junk down there. And it's got a big stain. There's a spring coming through. The couch is a little wonky. I'll just give it to the thrift store.
Yeah, no one can reuse that.
Not cool. Don't do that, right? But there are, different agencies and donation companies that will come and take your material. I want to give a plug for one of our Circular Philadelphia members. They're called Rego. They are a furniture kind of moving or reuse and recycling startup here in the city of Philadelphia. And they're offering those options for people to be able to go onto, their website, put in what they have, and then have the options for either recycling, donation, or even reselling that they have on their platform, which is really cool. So I also want to give a shout out to the Habitat for Humanity stores. There's one on Washington Avenue. There's one in Cherry Hill.
They've got great furniture. Yeah.
Exactly. You might have been there before. They have great stuff there. And also you can donate to them. And we have these sanitation centers around the city where they actually will take trash. And then they also will take things like electronics, big bulky items like furniture that goes out to the curb.
Let's talk about electronics. Any businesses in the city that will take some of our old laptops, televisions, even radios?
So you can drop them, as I said, those sanitation centers throughout the city. There's 6 of them and they are strategically located. I also want to give a shout out to a Circular Philadelphia member, Retriever. They take clothes, which we'll talk about in a second, but they also take electronics as well. But like I said, for free, you can take electronics as long as it has a cord and it's not something like a refrigerator that has refrigerant coolant in it or things like that, like a radio, a small TV, things like that. You can take it to the sanitation centers.
Okay, so tell us about where we could recycle our clothes.
Yeah, so again, Retriever is a great option for that. You can use text message to schedule a pickup at your door. They'll come. They do charge a fee to pick up those clothes, but they'll pick them up and then take them. Nobody wants your old, t-shirt,
right?
Your undershirt. Definitely nobody wants your used underwear, right? No,
that's a no-no.
That's a big no-no. So they actually take it and then recycle it into fabric that they can use to make new underwear, or they could use it and downcycle it. So,
interesting.
That's pretty cool. So there are those options here in the city. And then again, thrift stores, but just being mindful, not taking stuff that is really worn, has holes in it. You don't want to drop that off at the thrift store. And then the other kind of upper echelon of this is finding those consignment shops. So, from a Buffalo Exchange or Urban Exchange in my neighborhood, you can take stuff to them and sometimes they'll actually pay you for nice stuff. I'm getting old. I'm not cool enough with my clothes anymore. I got too much of the thrift stores that they actually get paid for this. So I usually just donate mine. But, if you're a hip youngster, you can even make some money.
Okay, Nick, say one of my resolutions is to start composting, do something productive with my food waste. How could I get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few options that we have in the city. So one is if you have a backyard, you live in like the Northwest or the Northeast, even in some parts of the city where you just have some space. There are lots of resources online. There's like a master composter course, just like the master gardeners that people might know. I know Penn State Extension offers a lot of resources. The Pennsylvania Horticultural Society as well on best practices on how to set a bin up and how to keep it so you don't have rats running around or really smelly stuff that your neighbors are, not happy about.
Yeah.
The city also launched community composting sites. I actually run one at my wife and I in our community. Manage a community farm called Emerald Street Community Farm right next to our house, actually, that has a community compost bin. So community members who are members of the farm can come and drop off compost. And there are, I think, maybe 12 sites around the city currently doing that at different gardens and farms. And then finally, you have services like Bennett Compost, Circle Compost. They're paid services, albeit, I would say for, some people, very affordable. Obviously, other people with, challenging economic situations, not, but they will do pick up at your door of your compost bucket that they give you, which is great. And, our hope is that becomes a more publicly supported thing. And there's actually like a local company that is part of the public system for just citywide compost collection that cities do provide.
Great. I live in an apartment. And so how can I, maybe implement these programs or changes for my neighbors?
So a lot of the services I talked about, whether it's Circle Compost or Bennett Compost, they like to go to an apartment complex because it's like a one-stop shop. You go there and you can get all the bins, you can get everything you need. So definitely tell your neighbors about this, right? If you really like one of the services, take a flyer and put it in the common area. And then also, I think landlords need to be held more accountable. We hear this a lot that landlords are not offering recycling as much anymore. They don't want to have two dumpsters. It's where do I put my trash? Where's my trash can? Landlords are responsible for providing those at least basic city service materials. So really kind of advocate towards the people who are managing your property.
Okay, Nick, let's move outside and talk about how we can clean up and beautify our homes and our blocks. Let's say I got a few of my neighbors together. We want to organize a street cleanup. How can we make this happen?
Yeah. So if you are a block captain, there's a block captain program of neighbors kind of doing a lot of things on their block, organizing block parties, being kind of eyes and ears on the streets for like public safety, and then also doing cleaning. So they call it the Philadelphia More Beautiful Committee will come and provide brooms. They'll provide like bags and the trash pickup, which is super important. Don't collect a bunch of trash and then be like, now what do we do with it? Oh no, call the city. Plan that before you start cleaning. Another group, unless you're not a block captain, that's great to work with is the Community Life Improvement Program, or CLIP. You might see them around painting over graffiti, cleaning up vacant lots. You can organize, you can call them ahead of time, tell them that you're going to do that. They'll deliver supplies, and then they'll also come and collect the trash at the end of the day. And one other thing, again, we represent businesses, so there are some paid services. I'm going to give a shout out to my friends over at Glitter, the Get Litter app. They are a organization that basically creates opportunities for people to clean up blocks, and neighbors pay into it. So right on Dolphin Street, right out where I live, all the neighbors on Dolphin Street pay into this. And once a week, a person comes, sweeps up, and then the trash is thought through and taken away.
Oh, that's awesome. That's Nick Esposito, Director of Policy and Engagement at Circular Philadelphia. Nick, thank you so much for all these tips and for joining me on CityCast Philly.
Thank you, Trinae. This is a great show, so thank you so much for doing it.
To see the list of businesses Nick mentioned in this episode, check out the link in our show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode about ways we can reuse and repurpose our old junk, tell a friend. Rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye. Do you have a cat?
I do. I'm sorry. He was
I
so
heard the meows.
quiet.
They want to be on the podcast.